Hey everybody, this is Brian with Inspiring How You See That, and today I wanted to talk about my top 12 favorite movies. As Kevin and I have talked about, most of what we talk about here is music, but we like all kinds of entertainment, whether it be movies or stand-up comedians or TV shows, sports, whatever it may be. So kind of wanted to go a little bit different today, and at some point I'm sure Kevin will do a list of his favorite films as well. I like all kinds of films. I like action, comedy, good drama, maybe even a chick flick here or there, like The Notebook. That's a pretty good one, but not big on a lot of them, but some of them are okay. But you'll see through here, I've got a wide taste in films, just like I do in music. And yeah, we'll go ahead and we'll jump right in. So we'll start at number 12. My 12th favorite movie is called A Knight's Tale. Knight's Tale is a kind of an oddball comedy. It's not a very common type of comedy that's out there. It stars Heath Ledger, Rufus Sewell, and Paul Bettany. And basically, it's a story. Heath Ledger plays this commoner who wants to be a knight, ends up becoming a jousting champion and a knight. And it's a very funny movie. It's the unique thing about it is it's set in medieval times, and then all of a sudden they'll play music or they'll dress in a certain way that's like from today, and you're like, how did that happen? It sounds dumb, but it fits perfectly with the film. And Heath Ledger, God rest his soul, was an outstanding actor, and his comedic side really came through in this film. So check out A Knight's Tale. Next, and you'll see that I'll do this a couple times, is I'll talk about a series as if it were one in a placement here. And the reason that I'll do that is, for example, this one is the Harry Potter series. I know, I'm a nerd, that's fine. But I look at it as a continuation of the same story. So even though there was, I think, 7 movies, it was all one continual story. So I use that as my justification to be able to say the Harry Potter series is number 11 on my top films. I thought they were great. I read all the books too, and I know what people say, but I don't care. I loved it. I thought that the acting with Daniel Radcliffe and Emma Watson and others was fantastic. I liked how it progressively throughout the movies got darker and it took on more of a mature tone. I thought that showed growth in the characters and growth in the story as well. I'm usually not into a lot of sci-fi things, which it kind of surprised me that I enjoyed this as much as I did. Going in, I thought it was going to be very kiddish and I wouldn't like it, but I felt myself wrapped up in it. So check out the Harry Potter movies. Read the books. It's actually an outstanding story. Number 10, Shawshank Redemption. Shawshank Redemption is an absolutely phenomenal drama. It's based in, Shawshank Prison, where I got this t-shirt, is an actually real place. It's in Mansfield, Ohio, and it's the Ohio State Reformatory. Actually, the current prison, the modern, up-to-date one, is just behind the old site, which is this building here that was used for the film. What's cool, you can actually go and see some of the actual set pieces that are still there. In the movie, Tim Robbins and Morgan Freeman play the main characters. It's a phenomenal story. Basically, Tim Robbins, his character is sent to prison wrongfully, and it talks about this horrible, god-awful hell of a prison called Shawshank, and everything that he had to endure there. And it's really just a classic movie. Again, if you haven't seen it, you owe it to yourself to check it out. Number 9 is another kind of unique comedy. It's Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? Starring George Clooney, John Turturro, and Tim Blake Nelson. This movie's hilarious, but it's one of those movies you really gotta watch and you gotta think to catch everything as it's going. It's based loosely off of Homer's Iliad, the ancient story, and it's absolutely phenomenal and hilarious. It's by the Coen brothers. It's not like your typical comedy. You just got to watch it, and you got to be prepared to pay attention to what's going on with it, but I think you'll get a lot out of it. At number 9 is my favorite Western, and that's Tombstone. I love Tombstone. Actually, growing up as a kid, I didn't really care for westerns much. I thought a lot of the older westerns were kind of boring. Tombstone flipped that on its head. It stars Kurt Russell as Wyatt Earp, and his brothers are played by Sam Elliott and Bill Paxton. And Val Kilmer plays Doc Holliday, and Val Kilmer steals the show in this movie. He was phenomenal as Doc Holliday. This movie is absolutely amazing. I've watched it, God, probably 20 times, and I don't get sick of it. It's an absolutely phenomenal film. Number 7, it's going to be another one I'm throwing a series in, but again, it's a continual story, is the Hunger Games series. Starring Jennifer Lawrence and Josh Hutcherson. I love the Hunger Games. Again, I read the 3 books, and I watched all 3 films, and it was really well done. And they stuck to the source material. And I loved it. The acting was phenomenal, the special effects, the action. It was intense from the beginning of movie 1 all the way through to the end. And that's probably one of the more recent films that are on my list. I think it is, actually, the newest one. I loved it. Again, it probably gets a little bit of a bad rap from people, but if you sit and watch it, I'm sure you'll enjoy it as well. So now we're going into the top 6 here. This next one is one that probably a lot of people haven't seen or heard of, and it's called Machine Gun Preacher. It stars Gerard Butler, and I know that sounds like a horrible B-movie title, but this movie is amazing. It's based on a true story of, well, a junkie who turned his life around, cleaned himself up, and became a pastor. And he's actually based here in Pennsylvania, the real pastor. And he started a church where he ministers to drug addicts, prostitutes, very similar to who hung out with Christ when he was here on earth. And then he goes on a mission trip to Africa, and he sees what's going on with these drug lords there, and how they're slaughtering people, and they're taking the young boys and forcing them to become, soldiers in their drug war. And he sees nobody's really doing anything to stop it, and he takes it upon himself. And so the name Machine Gun Preacher comes to it, where he kills these drug lords in order to protect the children, protect the people there. And Gerard Butler, who is probably my favorite actor, is absolutely amazing in this movie. He's completely believable as the main character. And I gotta say, this is probably, and it's gonna sound weird, because it's not a typical Christian movie, because it's brutal. The language is, off color, and it pulls no punches. But I gotta say, this is one of the best true Christian movies I've ever seen, in that it depicts true Christianity in the real world, in a world that is ugly and sinful and just ugh. And it doesn't put a pretty coat of paint on it. It shows it as it is, and I absolutely love a movie that does that. So check out Machine Gun Preacher. Now we're heading to the top 5, and at number 5 we're looking at The Patriot. The Patriot, this is not the Steven Seagal version at all. This is the Mel Gibson movie that is based in the Revolutionary War. Absolutely loved it. I love Mel Gibson. I think he's one of the best actors of all time. I know he's had some issues in his personal life, but that doesn't change how I see him as an actor. And The Patriot is absolutely amazing. That's one of those movies that you cry at times and you get pumped up, and I could watch that movie over and over. Adore that movie. Number 4, and this is my highest rated comedy, is Office Space. This is a movie that did not do well at all in theaters, kind of flew under the radar, and then once it was on VHS and DVD, it became a cult classic. It stars Ron Livingston and Jennifer Aniston, and this movie is hysterical. I think it should be mandatory viewing for anybody who's ever worked in an office, because it takes all those oddities and people and in situations, and it kind of expands upon it. But God, that movie's funny. It's one of the most quotable films I've ever seen. And I've gotten groups of my buddies. We get together and we watch that movie, and we can't stop laughing. It is absolutely hilarious. You have to watch Office Space. Coming in at number 3 is The Passion of the Christ, starring Jim Caviezel as Jesus. I know a lot of people say, oh, this is just a brutal film. It's, violence, porn, or whatever they want to call it. I don't care. This movie is phenomenal. It does such an amazing job of sticking to the biblical source and showing the horror and the absolute just anguish that Christ went through physically in his last moments before he was crucified. And to me, people could say all they want. That's what happened. Okay, we can't act like it was, a Sunday stroll for him. It was horrible. And that's the beauty of what he did for us. He took that upon himself, that we don't have to pay that penalty. And to see that, it is hard to watch. But if you're a Christian and you want an inkling of what our Lord went through, this movie does a fantastic job of showing you exactly what he allowed to have happen to himself so that we don't have to face it. Jim Caviezel was fantastic. I have no doubt that the Holy Spirit led him in his acting in this movie. So my family and I, it's a tradition at Easter. We watch this movie. Absolutely adore it. Number 2 is the Lord of the Rings series. Again, that one's not really a series. It's just kind of the same movie. It's one movie split into 3 parts because it was like 12 hours long. But God, this movie's awesome. I mean, the epic scope of it is, the first, I'd say hours kind of slow because they're doing the storyline. They're telling you all the character, and then from there all the way to the end is nonstop action. It stars Viggo Mortensen and Elijah Wood, and oh man, they took the source material from J.R.R. Tolkien. And obviously they had to cut some stuff out of it. The movie would have been 30 hours. But man, that is movie making by Peter Jackson at its best. I absolutely loved it. It deserves all the accolades that it gets. And finally, my number 1 favorite movie of all time. This movie for me has everything. It's got action, it's got a fantastic story, it's got a little bit of comedy, a little bit of a love story, and that's Braveheart, starring Mel Gibson. Braveheart is, in my opinion, the greatest film ever made. I love it. I may have watched that 50 times, and I could watch it another 50. It's inspiring. I don't know what else to say. It is just absolutely filmmaking at its best. And again, Mel Gibson at the top of his game, can't be beat. So I hope you enjoyed this. These are my top 12 films. We'll show up on the screen some films that were honorable mentions that maybe didn't make this list, but I still love. Let me know what your movies are. The ones that you love that, you could put it your top comedies, your top act, whatever you want to do. I'm excited to see what Kevin comes up with, and I'm excited to see what you guys come up with. So, again, thank you for stopping by with us. We love you guys. We always enjoy having you. God bless, and rock on.